Okay. So, as usual, please, we will try to explain all the different elements from the new competition on intellectual property. That's the first thing. Second thing, if something is not covered, something is not clear enough during today's session, please let us know. At the end, we will open the micros. You will have a full time to ask your questions, and we will do our best to give you answers to those questions. But please just wait until the end. That's the only thing that we ask from you. As sometimes we cover your expectations, but later, not at the moment you were expecting. So that's why. So, okay, see more people are joining. Well, I guess summer, hot weather for some. For those in Brussels, maybe not so hot. But in any case, ready. I hope you are ready to go through this webinar on intellectual property. So let's go for it. Okay, how's going to be the menu for today's webinar? How we're going to see it? Your first questions. We will try to answer the elements that comes first to your mind. Second, we talk briefly about the exams and the language and the method of evaluation. That is an interesting thing. Remember that EPSO is evolving now. It's creating a new competition system. So how all tests, but in a new way, in a new order structure. But it's the same thing as usual. So we will try to briefly talk about them. Most important for today's session, the application. That's the key thing that we are now today dealing with. So, and also in particular, the work experience, we will focus on that. And then some tips in general for your application and on the MCQ. That's also one thing that worries the candidates, the exam that you need to cover with your knowledge. So let's see for it. So first of all, why does it matter? Why should they care about my application? If you have attended previous webinars, you will see that we are repeating again the same messages. Yes, but because candidates repeat the same mistakes. That's why we're insisting on this. Please, 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 don't be afraid of having a bad CV. If you fulfill the criteria, meaning you have enough years of working experience in intellectual property, you have a law degree or any other degree combined with experience, that's fine, that's good enough. So don't think that you are not good or you're not up to this test or to this competition. So please, you are the right candidate for this competition. That's the first step. So don't think about the many candidates. It will be your performance, your results will be more related to your study, to the work that you have devoted in the competition, quality time, not time per se, rather than the fact that there are 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 candidates. We don't know how many will be, but we know that at the end, those who prepare the best, it pays off, and they get into the reserve list. Also, thinking that this is too complicated. Not at all. Please, come on, people. This is easy. I mean, now the application process is becoming even easier than before. So that's one advantage of the new EPSO model. So now you have plenty of time. This is summertime, on holidays. You can devote a couple of afternoons to filling your application. Why not? And the last but not least, the most dangerous one, especially now in this summertime, the procrastination. Now, don't leave it for tomorrow what you can do today. It's not a cliche. It's a must when we're talking about the applications, because if you leave it for the next day and the next day, then it comes a deadline and you haven't finalized, and then you have a heart attack. It happened to some candidates this week because on Monday, EPSO webpage broke or failed, as you prefer, so they couldn't finalize their application. Luckily, and fairly enough, EPSO allowed 24 hours more to deliver the application. But you can imagine, not a good time for being a candidate who's waiting to deliver or submit his or her application. So please don't leave it for the last day. Start today, finalize in 3-4 weeks. That's more than enough. You time until the end of August, almost end of August. So don't leave it for the very last day. This is important. Okay, now on where will I work? On this competition, that's easy. I mean, sometimes we get the question, with this competition or with the EPSO competition, can I work in my hometown? Can I work in Finland? Can I work in whatever? And most of the time you see that depends on the institutions involved in the competition and a lot of conditions. But today, in this competition, we got excellent news. It's clear where you're going to work if you go into the reserve list. That's in the European Union Intellectual Property Office, EUIPO. That is located in Alicante. So probably one of the best locations for a European institution or European agency. I mean, with all due respect, Brussels is a great city, but the weather is not so nice, and they don't have the seaside next to the office. Here you got it. So I know to work in this agency, it's an extra point is the seaside, the good weather, the nice environment, and the fact that Malaga is a lovely, Alicante, it's a lovely city. So yeah, I mean, I really envy those of you who will finalize working at this office. But one thing that I would like to point out, at the same time that they say that the reserve list is needed for EUIPO, for the agency, located in Alicante, it may recruit new members. So it's 200 spots for the reserve list, but it's not guaranteed that the 200 who will be in that list will be higher, will become officers. This is important. Now with the new EPSO model, the reserve lists are bigger, so the internal procedures to get a final position as an officer becomes a bit more competitive. That's the dark side or the other side of the coin of the new EPSO model. And this is right from the beginning that they are making it clear, quite clear. So please don't forget that. So being in the reserve list is the first great step that you can achieve. Excellent. And there will be a second, getting a position from the reserve list. That will require a little bit of work. It will require that you keep working on your application and submitting your CVs to the EUIPO. That will be another story that we will talk about that a few months later when you are all in the reserve list, and we will present you the options and the best strategies. So, and also we don't know for how long the list will be valid. We expect that any selection process is expensive. It costs money to the European budget, so it will be kept for at least a few years. But it's not guaranteed, it's not cast in stone. So by average, the initial reserve list is open for 1.5 years, 2 years. This time probably will be that time or even longer, and then it will be renewed. But it's not guaranteed, not 100%. So don't forget that. If you are in the reserve list, don't slip over and start to submit your CV. Okay, that's as the place and the number of spots that you'll be offered. But about the languages, congratulations, people! You are lucky. I mean, for once, this time it's not English only as a language too, but you can choose between English, French, German, Italian, and Spanish. Wonderful, like in the old times with the generalist competition, the 5 languages. Super, right? So can I choose language 1 Spanish and then language 2 Italian? Yes, you can. Can I do language 1 English and language 2 Spanish? Yes, you can. Great, excellent. Also, just see there in the notice is clear about the languages that you can use for the application. 24 official languages. I will talk about this a bit more later. Testing, the MCQ, the reasoning test, verbal, numerical, abstract reasoning, language 1. Remember, our favorites in the house are the abstract reasoning in Hungarian. We always feel that it has an interesting flavor on that part. The field-related MCQ test, language 2. Well, I will suggest for this one that you select the language that you're used to read the regulation on intellectual property. If you have studied in a French university and you know the la loi on intellectual property in French, well, why not to do the field-related MCQ test in French? It will be helpful. Then don't forget that it will be the same language as in the case study. If you are not strong enough in writing skills on French, then don't do it. and go to English, to Spanish, to German, to Italian, whatever language you feel stronger, more confident, and you know well two things. First, knowledge on intellectual property, and then drafting for the case study. Don't forget that the case study assesses your writing skills. So that's why you're supposed to have a good level, even if they ask only for a B2. So that's on the languages. So after such a good news that we have 5 languages to choose, we can go to the next thing. I'm eligible. Can I be part of this competition? I'm an engineer, so can I be part of this competition? Yes, I will say, but if you have the right experience. So wait, I'm a philologist, but I've been working my whole life in intellectual property. I have 10 years of working experience on that part. Oh, great, you can, because your degree, you just need a university degree according to second profile, and then 5 years of relevant professional experience. Excellent, super. So check these 3 options. I'm a lawyer, great. Then you only need 3 years of work experience. Look, I'm a lawyer. I have a master's degree in competition law, and I've been working in competition law my whole life. Sorry, you are not eligible, because they are asking for relevant professional experience. Relevant professional experience meaning that you've been working on intellectual property. As simple as that. And another element that we want to point out, the fact that besides not having a diploma or a degree in law, still you can be a candidate, is the fact that if you got a PhD, doctorate, finalize, you need it counts as much as 3 years of working experience. So if you got a PhD in intellectual property, if you got a PhD on astronomy or astrophysics, I'm sorry, with all my respect, that's a great PhD, but it's not the good PhD for this competition. But if it's an intellectual property, so it counts as 3 years. So meaning that you already almost got it there, because you just need 4, so this PhD plus 1. So that will be super, right? Check these conditions. This time they are not too complicated. They are rather simple, or at least straightforward. But it's not simple is to have the right experience, because there are not so many people who has the right profile for the competition. That's why we wanted to insist on this part. Answer your question, I'm eligible. Continuing on this, there is one tricky thing, one element is related to the nature of at least 2 duties. This is how they are going to take into consideration your work experience. Imagine if, and we go to the annex 2, those are the duties of the position. Imagine that you've been working your whole life on the first option that appears there. So trademark applications on the grounds for refusal and preparing related decisions. You just been doing that on lawyer's cabinet or something like that. Only that. So you are the best in your job, but only doing that duty, that task. Then that wouldn't be enough to be considered relevant. That would be a pity, but it's just like that. On the contrary, imagine that you've been working just 3 years. You are a lawyer, you've been working 3 years, but during these 3 years, your duties were split between trademark applications, trademark opposition cases, trademark cancellation cases, and the design application or invalidity cases, and also appeals. So you are covering at least the first 5 tasks of duties there. Okay, great, that's a relevant experience. So even if it's only 3 years, it could be considered 100%. So that's super. Don't forget, meaning that in general, it's difficult to find someone who has been only involved in one of these duties. But you correct me, as you are the expert on intellectual property. But the thing is that we need to explain, we need to reflect that information. That's also one idea that I will repeat several times today. We always need to provide the whole information of our experience, back experience. They won't check on LinkedIn, they won't check on Google. They will just read our application. That's why it's so important that we disclose the duties that we have covered, so we get as much time of working relevant working experience as possible. That's one warning. But the second warning of today is the fact that you need to upload the documents. By the 2nd of October, you will have to upload the documents. So be ready to have your contract. You have the letter from your head of unit or your boss explaining your what has been your responsibilities, your tasks, your performance. So don't forget that everything that you put on your application need to be proof or need to be supported by evidence, except the languages. The languages are assessed during the process, but nothing else. But for the rest, working experience, don't forget to include all the documents. Also important, don't forget that any legal document in one member state is considered valid for them for EPSO. So you don't need to legalize or to do it again if it's from a member state. If it's from a different state, not a member state of the European Union, thinking about those who maybe studied in UK, then you may need to legalize. You may need to convalidate legally that document in a member state. Those informations are referred in the Annex 1 and the Annex 3 of the Notice of Competition. So go there to check all these small details. All the questions that you may have probably will be there in the Annex 1 and the Annex 3. Especially when we are considering about the kind of documents that we need to prove or to provide evidence of our working experience, or also the different stages on how they are going to be developed on the evaluation of our application and the documents validity. Okay, that's for checking the eligibility, the duties, and the relevant nature or related to the nature of at least two duties. Coming back to the tests and languages, as we promised before, the second part for today's webinar. Our classics, verbal, numerical, abstract reasoning. I'm not going to stop to explain this test. I mean, there are other videos, other webinars where we have explained these elements. But the interesting part is that they disclose the different markings that we need in order to pass to the next step or to get evaluated in the next exams. So you see, verbal, 20 questions, numerical, 10, abstract, 10. We need 10 out of 20 on verbal and 10 out of 20 in the combination between numerical and abstract. If you've been in a previous webinar that we did for economics, you will see that the marking was different. How is that possible? In that one, it was numerical that you need 6 out of 10, while the combination between verbal and abstract needed 15 out of 30. Why? Why is that? Because each competition sets its own rules. Its competition marks the elements that we need to pass. So that's why. So that's why it's important always to check the notice and see what are the markings that we need. In this case, yes, it's a passing mark, yes or no. It's not having the highest mark doesn't mean anything on this exam. You just need to have more than 10 out of 20 on verbal and 10 out of 20 between numerical and abstract. As simple as that. But if you don't pass, you won't get the results from the MCQ or the case study. That is, let's say, access doors that you need to open in order to know the results on your next exam. Because all the 3 exams are taken at the same time. Don't forget that. So now we are going to the field-related MCQ test. So here we got language 2. So if language 1 was your native language, language 1, you choose French. Then language 2 must be something different between the 5 options. French cannot be, so you will have 4 options to choose. If the first option, language 1, was Estonian, then you still have the 5 options for language 2. Number of questions, 30 questions, not bad, not bad. 35 minutes, more than enough. 1 minute, 10 seconds, 15 seconds per question should be more than enough in order to answer. Scoring between 0 and 30, but you need to pass with 15, minimum 15. But the reality is that more than 15, you need the highest mark possible. We will see why. But in order to be one of the candidates who are joining the reserve list, you need to get the highest result possible here in the the field-related MCQ. Okay. And then if you pass the MCQ, whatever the result, you will get your case study reviewed and you will get a score between between 0 and 10. Okay. Then that makes things much easier. The case study seems that is getting a bit less complicated than in the past. Apparently, it will be a 45 minutes test. It's not in the notice, so it's not official 100%, but this is what EPSO said in some of their communications. So expect something of just 45 minutes, but still, if you combine the 45 minutes of the case study plus the 35 of the field related, plus the 1 hour 5 minutes of the CBT or the computer-based test, the verbal, numerical, abstract reasoning, meaning that we are above the 2 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes, plus the breaks between exams or potential break during the exam. So we're talking about a 3 hours exam. So don't forget that it's a little bit like a marathon. In fact, marathons can be faster. So this is important. On the case study, you just need to pass 5 out of 10. But again, you need as many points as possible. So the more points you can get, the closer to 10, the better. That's another thing that we cannot forget in this case. Why? Why is that? This reason. Because in order to be part of the final list of candidates who are in the reserve list, they will mark or exam just like this. So field related MCQ will be 70% of the weight, while the case study is the 30%. So in any case, you see that you can get 3 times more points in the field related than the case study. So the higher marks in the MCQ pays more or has a stronger advantage, but still everything counts. So people, you need to prepare quite well the field related and the case study. Remember that the case study is only about competencies. It's not about knowledge. So for knowledge, only the field related MCQ. For general competencies, the case study. And then, based on the markings that you obtain combining these 2 tests, they will establish the list, the ranking, based on your results, the highest, the lowest, and they will start checking the documents. Once they got 200 valid candidates, according to the documents, they will stop and they will publish the list. They will give you the results. So, as cruel, as simple as that. So that's why you need a high score. You need to prepare well on this competition. When it's not difficult, yes, but it deserves some respect and some work to be done. Hope this is clear on the languages, the tests, and the marking system. I think that we cover it. As you have noticed, we tend to do a lot of captions from the notice of competition. Yes, we do it on purpose because the notice of competition is law, is the rules, the law of the game. So EPSO has to follow it letter by letter. So you have to do as candidates. So that's why we prefer to get captions from there rather than reinvent or redraft. No sense. We want to respect the original source and mark you the elements that you need. But now we are moving to the application. Moment. This is a classic picture of the application. You will see that you are entitled to fill in your application in 24 official languages of the European Union. Fine, excellent. But bear in mind, they will have to read your application. They will have to review your application in order to check that your documents and that you are eligible and you have the right experience. So my suggestion is make life easier or at least easy to the assessor. So use a broadly used language. We don't know the origin of the assessors. We don't know where they are coming from, but most of them, if not all, will speak English for sure. Likely they will understand or they can work on French. Then German maybe is a bit more complicated. Not so many people use German in the institutions. Spanish and Italian are quite popular languages, so still we can reason that. But other languages that are less popular in the sense of the total number of people who are capable of reading and working with the language beyond the natives makes things a bit harder. If we fill in the application in those languages, and we want it correct to review it, because they will need a translation. They will need to submit to the interpretation services or translation services to get your application translated. And sometimes the translator, with the best of his or her efforts, cannot capture the full meaning of what you try to explain, cannot capture the full meaning of the subjects, the work experience, whatever. So my suggestion is that you already prepared your application in a popular language. If it's not English, go for French, Spanish, Italian, go beyond there. I think that in EUIPO, if the staff on the board are from EUIPO, Spanish won't be a problem. This is kind of working language there. But still, think about it when filling in your application, about which language is most useful from a perspective of an easy evaluation and checking of your application. There's always there is a risk that somebody translating your application can make a mistake, and you are not there to complain or to check. That's why it's better if we do it by yourselves beforehand. By the way, they incorporate the link to the e-translation tool. This is a tool subsidized by the Commission or paid by the Commission, where you can translate, and it's quite good. It's much better than Google Translator or Google Translate. So if you're not sure, just use it because it can help you a lot. You only need to be registering your login. Anyone with a valid email can register there, so no, not a big deal. It's free. The use of that application is completely free. That's on the language for the application. But what else do we have? Well, the selection of the languages. Don't forget this. For instance, you can do like just like that. I mean, select Spanish, English, English, Spanish. Remember that on the top for the listening test is one language between the 24. For the other test is language 2, so it can be one of the 5 languages available. Don't forget that to mark carefully, because it wouldn't be the first time that somebody just leave with paying attention, leave mark a different language, and then they got a nasty surprise the day of the exam, saying, "Oh, what? I put first language to English and I got my exam in French. This is a mistake." No, wait, look, your application you put French. So sorry, guys. Careful with that. Be careful with these details. If you don't leave a mark, you will get a warning when you're trying to submit everything that is missing, all the data that is missing in your application, before submitting, you will get a warning about some data is missing, or this is not right, or you need to complete these points. Now, the level of automatization of the application system is quite elevated and good. I mean, it's performant. So there is not many possibilities of making the mistake of submitting your application with empty slots or with the missing information. With wrong information, that could be, but then the blame is on you in that case. And also remember that nobody can submit by mistake his or her application. You need to introduce your password and also to click a box saying that, yes, you are sure that you want to submit your application. So meaning it's a two-system verification. Verification system. So people don't tell me that you didn't want and it was submitted by itself. No, nowadays it's not longer possible. In the past, maybe, but not now. Okay, that's about the registration data. But what else do we have? Yeah, the languages. Please don't forget minimum. If you're using language 1, let's say that I choose Italian. So C1. It's the minimum level that I was required, and I choose English as language 2, so minimum level B2. Imagine that I got the fantastic idea of put English, ability to listen B1. Oh no, I could get disqualified automatically. If I remember correctly, the system will alert you, will tell you that you are not filling in the criteria of the languages as well, but please don't wait to that. I mean, just be sure that at least one language is C1 for any of the 24 official languages can be, and the second language 2, it's B2 minimum. If you are C1, C2, more than fine. But this is important. It will be a pity that you get disqualified just because you forget to mark the right level. Come on. It's easy. Just pay a little bit of attention. Not much more than that. That was for the languages. What about the other pages in your application, the other departments? Yes, the motivation and strength. Classic, very classic one. Maybe some of you are very tired of drafting or filling in these questions, because this has been part of the EPSO competitions for at least from 12 years ago that I remember, because I think that, yes, in 2011 was already there. Before that, I cannot assure you. So say, come on, this is boring again and again. I will copy just directly from my previous application. You can do it, but also suggested dedicate a few minutes to these questions. Try to customize. I'm not saying that you don't get inspiration from the previous application or you don't copy parts of the paragraphs. Fine, we are fine with that. But saying pay some attention and verify, redraft, think again about the questions in relation with this competition. Why? Because you don't get marks from these answers. Fine. Yeah, but you get a communication method with the assessors. When they are reviewing your application, they may take a look to these questions to understand you better, to see, to understand the global picture of your experience, work experience, academic background, and some other pieces of information. So that's why it's useful. It completes the picture that the assessor will get from us. In the sense that it's only that information, the one that in the work experience, academic experience, and motivation and strengths, that the elements that they have to assess that if you fill the criteria or not. And maybe some work experience that is not clear enough, it's explained here in your motivations and in your strengths, and it will help them to clarify that you're really filling all the criteria. So everything counts, the whole application counts. That's why the motivation and strength deserves a few minutes. Let's take a close look to this big tender to this question. They've been there for a long time. They are all friends already from all of us, and they're helpful to put us into the logic of this competition. So I would suggest to check them. Oh, that's some motivation and strengths. What about the classics, the work experience and academic experience? Let's go back to the criteria we saw before. For once, we try to readapt to make it more visual, what we just read from the competition. So there are three options. Studies, they mentioned a degree of 3 years is more than enough, but most of you probably will have a 4 years or even a master on law or any other degree. So having a university degree is enough to be part of this competition, 3 years. If it's in law, then you need 3 years of working experience, of relevant working experience, at least 2 duties. We saw it before. Please go to the previous slide to check what is relevant experience, the duties. Option 2, 3 years, any degree, 5 years of work experience, and then option 3, 3 years on any degree, plus master or PhD in intellectual property. As I say, astrophysics as a PhD, it's fantastic, it's beautiful, but it's not very useful to this competition. So 4 years of work experience or 3 years, and don't forget if you got a PhD, then it's just 1 extra year of working on intellectual property to get access to the competition, to be a valid candidate or eligible candidate. Okay, so don't forget these elements. So now we need to put these elements, this table, we need to transfer our experience and all elements into our application. Simple, right? So as simple as this. This is on the left, the typical caption from the professional experience. So we are not inventing anything. So the important thing is the last one, the nature of duties. While occupation is briefly stating your position or what was your role in the organization, in your job, the nature of duties is where we can explain the things that we have done, the duties that we have carried out. And those must be extracted or must be reflected from those in the Annex 2. So please don't tell me that you were on the nature of duties. I was the right-hand man of the senior advocate or senior lawyer in a cabinet for specializing in intellectual property. Then that's not a valid experience. Yeah, you was the right-hand man. Wonderful. How good. But how is that relevant for me? EUIPO. How is that relevant in that experience? Now, well, instead of explaining that you were the right-hand man or right-hand woman, you were doing the following tasks. So I was dealing with trademark application, doing the refusal or preparing related decision. I was filling appel cases or providing support to my colleagues by giving legal knowledge or insight on the intellectual property cases. But you explain, you relate all the tasks. Remember that you will have to prove them. You will have to provide evidence. So please don't say that you have done everything and then you got a document where it says, no, you have to do nothing. So that will be not good at all. So please remember, yes, check out your past experience, check the Annex 2, the typical duties, and explain what you have done using the vocabulary, the tasks that appear in the Annex 2, reflect that in the nature of duties, right at the bottom of your application. And for the rest, is standard information, not a big deal. But does it look simple? It is. It's simple, but it requires some time and some attention. You cannot do it in just one afternoon, very fast, blah, 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 because you will commit mistakes. Pay attention to these elements. Okay. Check twice. Check 3 times, ask to a friend, please, can you read my application, see if something is missing on the explanation. Is understandable the nature of the duties of what I have done? Yes, no, if not, review, draft, correct, improve. Simple, as simple as that. It requires time. That's for the duties. What else do we have? Yes, of course. At the end, we got the eligibility. We need to say yes to everything. Yes, we have done the military service. Let's not forget that in some member states, still the military service is compulsory. You have to do it before becoming a candidate on this competition, and some other requirement that you need to say yes in order to submit your application. Otherwise, you won't be allowed to do so. And by the way, you see there in the overview part on top, you can always click there, see an overview of your application, the whole of it. You can print it or save it as PDF, so you can have it with you, review it, read it, print and read, whatever you prefer. So you can do that last revamp or last revision of your application before submitting. So you have plenty of opportunities, plenty of methods on how to do this overview of your application and error control just in case. Let's go back to the beginning. So why does it matter? Everything that we have seen, but based on our experience on the last years, and there's a correlation between the results that you get, the results, your performance in the competition, at the end, your position in the result list, with taking seriously your application, because by doing so, it shows and it puts you in the right mood, in the right mental situation to tackle whatever you get from EPSO and from the competition. That's one thing. And second, it doesn't matter if you got 6, 7, or 20 years of experience. If your explanation, it's a piece of 3 points, means nothing. But at the same time, if you got 4 years of working experience or relevant working experience and a law degree, you are more than acceptable, suitable for this competition. And if it's well explained, it's great. You are a great candidate for this competition. So at the end, yes, it's a bit sad, because especially for those of you who have a long experience, working experience, why do you have to provide all these details? Why do you have to spend time explaining all these elements? You already got a great CV, undoubtedly, but they have to select people. They have to go through thousands of candidates. So the only way is by checking your application. So they need to read it. They need to understand how good you are, and they will only understand it by your application, by your explanations. Otherwise, your experience won't be validated and you won't be a suitable candidate. So please, people, don't forget. Some tips on how to fill in the application. Saying, so please don't write long sentences, especially when you're describing the nature of your duties. So please go to 15, 20 words sentence. I'm referring in English. If you are using a different language, same idea. Keep it short. I know some languages can be shorter, some others can be longer, especially for those who are like me, fellow Spaniards. Please don't forget that putting some subordinadas, so linked sentences within the main one is not a good strategy. So straightforward sentences, one line, one idea, one verb. That's it. Simple. Keep it simple. So try to use some bullet points. I cannot use bullets in the EPSO application form. Well, you cannot use it, but you can create them with a keyboard, with the plus signs, with these elements. So yeah, be a little bit inventive, but make things clear. Think about a person who is reading your application after reading 20 other applications before. This person will be tired. They need visually some assistance to go through your application. So by splitting the in lines, all the information, making visually clear, that's a big help. And usually it also grants you more pain in reading and also a better appreciation. I'm not saying that you will get a lot of points or that you will be considered, no, instead of 2 years, I would consider this candidate has 3 years just because it's clear. No, but they will really appreciate that, no, these 2 years are very relevant, good. These other 2 years are very relevant, okay, the candidate is acceptable. That's why. Especially when you do a long list of duties or palettes with the duties, please, the strongest experience, the main duties, the main things, put them on top or at the bottom, never in the middle. If the greatest activity that you have performed in intellectual property, you just put it in the middle, it gets lost. It gets a sandwich effect, hidden by the other options. So just put it first, otherwise at the end, because human beings, we tend to read in long list the first sentences and the last ones, and only if we need to, we go to the middle. That's why. And it's a correlation with the impact. And last but not least, I mentioned it, but I will keep insisting, use the same vocabulary as they use in the notice. So, try to approach your experience to that, provided there is a relation. I mean, I'm not saying you invent anything, but if you've been working on intellectual property, see what is the vocabulary used in the notice in relation with the duties, with the activities, and use it to describe your work experience. Not difficult, right? Simple. Sure. So, reviewing on the timeline of the competition. So, you have until the 29th of August to deliver your application, as I say, almost till the end of the month, of next month. So, plenty of time. You can do it from the beach. So, don't worry about it. Send your application. Then you will have the exam September, perhaps beginning of October. We don't think that it will be much later, but we will see. Only when the application period is closed, they will disclose the date for the evaluation. So remember, you will have the 3 tests, long morning, long afternoon ahead of you. Then they will go for the checks on eligibility, November, December, and probably the reserve list for the interviews or for further selection process will be in January. With, in Spanish with Reyes Magos, the 3 wise men, right? So it will be a nice present, right? It was for all of us. So, and then the evaluation interested by the institution, in this case, EUIPO. In total, shouldn't be more than 6 months. That's the plan by EPSO, but in any case, check Annex 1 as well, because there's more information on this part. All the information is in the notice. Haven't you noticed that? Last but not least, the selection process. Remember, on more complete details on the exam, upload your documents. It's very likely that you will have to upload your documents before the exam. So in a way of filtering those candidates who are not invalid in the sense that they haven't uploaded the documents, no exam. That's the correlation. So Don't forget that. Then the CBT to pass, verbal, numerical, and abstract. The MCQ closest to 30, the better, above 15. The case study pass above 5, but don't forget this weighting system. The multiple choice is 70% of your final mark. Case study is 30% of your passing mark in total. And those of you, hopefully all of you who are listening to us today or through our YouTube channel will be among the first rank candidates. You will get your documents verified and you will join the 200 post reserve list. That's the idea of the selection process. Simple, right? Not very difficult. But probably you're wondering one small thing. What about the MCQ? What about the content of the exam? And yes, about the reserve list, I forgot to mention this is a kind of Hunger Games. But don't worry, we'll come to that a few months later in January when you are all in the reserve list, and we will help you to go through it. So that's a promise. So, and MCQ, what can we say about it? Well, simple. We go back again to the notice of competition. Yes, we do, because all the answers are there. And we go to the duties, and we see the keywords, the key elements that we see more repetition the whole times. They talk about trademark applications, the validity of cases, intellectual property, research and analysis, case law. Again, they mention case law, expertise on the field of intellectual property, trademarks, design, geographical indications, property right, intellectual property rights, and the European Observatory of Infringement of Intellectual Property Rights. So that's a nice, interesting list of topics that most likely we bet the exam will be about. I mean, remember that they have to assess between 27 member states, candidates coming from them with different legal backgrounds, different knowledge, but with a shared knowledge. What is that? The European knowledge on intellectual property. That's the idea. That's why we mark these elements as the key ones, and they are linked to this other part. These links that are extracted from the EUIPO web page. So some of them are taken in Spanish because by default we took it on the Spanish menu, as the agency is in Spain, that's why. But you have it on English as well. And of course, all the legal documents can be found in English, French, Spanish, Italian. So the 5 all languages too. So regarding the marks, the trademarks, the drawings, the models, I think probably it's missing the origin of the denomination. Marks as well, international treaties that's linked to the case law, the EUIPO guidelines in relation with all the previous aspects. So all these links I think are relevant, and they will guide you to documents and materials that are suitable for study. Okay, but in any case, the best manual, the notes you take, in the sense that you go through all these elements and you don't study by heart, but you try to map them. You need to write some diagrams, some notes, some schemes that will help you to understand and to keep that knowledge. Because just trying to remember by heart is not very useful. It doesn't take you anywhere. Okay. Hope this will be useful. By the way, if you're wondering, yes, we will upload this PowerPoint into our into YouTube channel. Just look for it on the comments, so you will have it there. That's one thing. Last but not least, what can YaSemosEuropeos do for you? How can we help you? So let's not forget that we are here to assist you, and we can help you with free webinars and materials. You've been part of one of them today, so welcome. CBT trainings and competition exams. We are now offering, and we will reopen the inscription periods mid-August for CBT, multiple choice on intellectual property as well, and the case study, both in English and in Spanish, training for the assessment center, assessment sessions for those of you who are still in all the old processes of competition. Otherwise, also for the interviews that you may have later when you are part of the reserve list, application review, if you really need a pair of fresh eyes to take a expert look on your application because you're not feeling confident enough. We are happy to help on that part with the service of application review. And then, but if you just want to be up to date, you want to follow us and know what else we are doing, please don't forget to subscribe to our Telegram channel. That's our main communication mean at this moment. Twitter as well. We are quite present there, but lately Twitter is doing some strange things. So that's why we invite you to join Telegram, but also in Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or in YouTube, you can follow us and we will try to post all the relevant information as well there. If possible, if you visit us, don't forget to click like. That's always, you know, the algorithm appreciates much that you do. So, and that's it from our side. So by reminding you only your work matters on the application, we open the micro for your questions or comments and before we close today's session. If there is any comment or any question. If you are silent, you don't want to open the micro, just put it on the chat, of course.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Monica. I do have a question because you mentioned that in the case study, the main thing that is going to be assessed are the competencies. Can you define those competencies, please?
Communication.
Okay, so
at this moment,
experience, okay, I see.
At this moment, apparently, as it's only between 10 points, apparently they are only assessing communication skills, no other competency.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
My pleasure. Any other question or comment? Oops. So let's see on the chat. Okay, thank you, Ramirez. Hope you found this presentation useful. I know we're in midsummer, so today there are not so many of you, but hopefully during the coming days, you will see this recording on YouTube and you will find it useful for your application and for becoming successful candidates in this competition. Okay, good. So see you on the CVT then. Okay, people, that's it for today. See you probably next week for the competition on crisis and migration that will be open tomorrow. We will assess and we will publish again another webinar. So stay tuned. Bye-bye.